Commissioners.
Mr. Kleinpeter, are you ready? Are you ready?
Right.
Grace, are you ready? Everybody good to go?
Okay.
Do we have anybody on the phone, the mayor or Councilor Lloyd? Anybody with us? Okay. All right. Excellent. At this time, I would like to call to order this February 21st, 2023 meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Seitz?
Here.
Ms. Lowenbecker?
Here.
Mr. Reiniger?
Here.
And Ms. Lloyd said she would be joining us a little later.
Excellent. Thank you. At this time, I would like to report on our last executive session. We discussed personnel, litigation. No action was taken. At this time, do I have any public comment on agenda items? Seeing no public comment. Agenda item number 1.
Do I have a motion to approve the council meeting minutes for February 7th, 2023 as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated February 16th, 2023, which is for the period of February 3rd through February 16th, 2023, and to ratify the approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make those payments?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments on the bills? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3, Overdeer Park.
Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-5 authorizing HRG to proceed with applying for the DCNR grant for upgrades to Overdeer Park?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? Mr. Sheets?
I just wanted to add, so we don't anticipate any design changes on the project. I just wanted to note that the current estimate for the project was $228,000, and that assumed that we applied for that grant in the fall. The grant was to be awarded in the spring, so that would assume construction of this year. So when we reapply, that award would be announced in the fall with construction of next year. So with that said, we may want to consider like a 10 to 15% increase in contingency, just to account for any higher, inflation costs. And if the bids come in at 228, that's what you guys pay. Just food for thought if you guys want to discuss that.
Anybody have any conversation around that topic? Kind of just see where the chips fall when we get there?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So
To
moved.
accept the resolution.
Oh,
You have a
so
motion and a second. You need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do.
Yeah.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 4.
Do I have a motion to approve the Huffer Park contract closeout documents and final payment request number 4 in the amount of $101,486.90 to Rogel Incorporated?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5.
Do I have a motion to accept the resignation of Cameron Gross Kunkel as a full-time police officer with the Middletown Borough Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Vice President Willenbrecker. Anybody have any questions or comments on the resignation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Sorry to see Mr. Gross leave us. Oh, hi, I'm sorry. Agenda item number 6.
Do we have a motion to authorize Public Safety Director Wright to hire Cameron Gross Kunkel as a part-time police officer with the Middletown Borough Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Kluskevich, second by Counselor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 7.
That's my report. I will draw your attention to number 1 on my report. First item, we received a request from the library director. He's requesting that we add their meetings to our annual meeting notice publication in the Patriot News. Does council have any objection to us adding that in 2024 when we get to that?
No.
Historical Society has submitted their special event request for the 48th Annual Craft Fair. They'll need to use the park or reserve the park from June 8th to 10th. The 10th will be the actual fair from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The fair will be conducted as in previous years, where there will be alcohol provided in an enclosed area. And there will also be no parking requests on Mill Street as in the past. If anybody have any questions or whatever, if not, we'll put that on our business meeting agenda for a vote in March.
Sounds good.
Item number 3, the middle school is requesting to use Hopper Park for their year-end field trip on Friday, June 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They will be walking from school to the park and back, I guess, so they may need assistance from our police department, whoever on duty that day, once they get to Main Street, to get them all across. If you don't have any objections, we'll put that also on our business meeting for a vote.
Sounds good.
The Dauphin County Nerf Club submitted their annual special event request for approval to host the 2023 outdoor games in the field along Mill Street at Huffer Park. If you have no objections to that, we'll also have that on our agenda for the March business meeting, a vote.
Yeah.
Item number 5, a zoning hearing board. A letter of resignation was received from Elizabeth Eldridge as she's moving out of town. Council will need to accept her resignation and then advertise for the appointment of a new member. We'll also include that on our business meeting for March. Park Steering Committee recently had another one of their meetings to discuss the PROS plan. That's the overall comprehensive plan for parks in the borough of Middletown, parks and open spaces. And our last meeting, we kind of focused on the pool area of the current parks and discussed how that may possibly be used in the future. And some of the things that we discussed, rather than a water feature there, would be a potential for something like either a dog park, outdoor fitness facility, or, Josh, was there another thing that we mentioned, you're recalling that we?
We talked about,
We also-
various types of passive recreation. I think you kind of hit the main ones there, outdoor fitness equipment, kids challenge play. We talked about the potential of like a community pollinator garden. I think at this point, the main thing that we were looking to try to kind of come to a conclusion on is, I know a couple weeks ago we had talked about doing a master site plan for that property to plan it in some more detail. And in that, as we were HRG was putting our scope together, we kind of are scratching our heads going, we talked about anything from a splash pad to skate parks to this more passive recreation. And with such a wide variety of different projects, it kind of is hard for us to give you guys an accurate and fair fee for that. Because, obviously planning for something that doesn't require detailed survey, utilities, all that would be a much lower fee and less intensive planning effort than, if we're putting in a skate park or, splash pad that may require sub-consultants, all that kind of stuff. So at this point, you know, we, number one, wanted to confirm, you know, do we want to move forward with that master site plan on the pool alongside the pros plan? Do we want to let the pros plan, you know, come to an end and see what those recommendations are before we move forward? Or, you know, if we can all agree that we may not want to do, you know, something like a splash pad that has intensive utilities and intensive surveys required, I think we're at a point where, you know, we can move forward with that proposal to you guys for, you know, planning efforts for some sort of passive recreation feature, like Ken said, whether that's a dog park, whether that's, you know, outdoor recreation or outdoor fitness equipment. It's all kind of in the same scope of things that we could scope that proposal for you. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to answer any questions, talk through that, have a discussion.
Yeah, the committee and selected members of staff, Public Works, have been looking at this issue as well as the pros plan for quite some time. And one of the things we wanted to focus on was, you know, that besides the pros plan was that particular lot, because it's been sitting idle for some time. And that maybe we should make that a priority to work in parallel with the comprehensive plan for the parks, so we could move that forward sooner. And one of the things the engineer wanted to know is, well, there's a big difference. If it's a water feature, there's going to be a lot more cost involved in engineering and so forth. So based on the results we received from the community in our survey and the pros plan, we've got a lot of interest in town from young people in outdoor physical fitness equipment. We also have not as much interest, but we've heard from time to time over the years that some people would like to have a dog park. I think recently somebody's been on the website with that, you know, talking about that. And we thought, well, what could we do there that's not going to be, that's going to be popular, but not going to be a big drain on the annual operating budget like a pool with the chemical costs and the labor costs? I mean, we're looking at $250,000 probably if we don't hire our own people like we were looking at before. We'd have to get a service to come in to do it right. That's a lot of money to operate one facility for 3 months, 4 months out of the year. But if we could put something in there that's popular for the folks, that doesn't require chemicals and maintenance, that would fit into that site, that maybe we could reuse the building that's there, and so forth. That's what we're looking at.
Is this in the flood zone, floodway,
Floodplain, it's not in the floodway,
floodplain? 100-year, 200-year,
100-year.
100-year?
So at that point, you know, you can permit, as long as it's not a residential building or a, you know, building that gets constant use, you should be, you're still gonna need to permit if there's any above ground, like obstruction. But it, you know, within reason, you should be able to permit that as long as you're not doing anything. I don't think anything that you put in there is gonna increase flood elevations by any means, so certainly permittable.
So we haven't settled in on what we're going to do.
Yeah,
there.
and we're
But
certainly
what
not
the,
looking for an answer on, you know, what do you want to do? We're just kind of, just a general feel of, you know, are we? a
well, what
water
the engineer
feature,
wanted to know,
passive?
you know, is are we okay with abandoning water features for that site?
Because the
It's
more,
kinda
the
what
more
we
we
wanted
talk
to move
about it, you know, that splash pad is a great idea, and it's not a pool, but at the same time, it still comes with a pretty intensive maintenance, you know, year-to-year maintenance. You still
Well,
have,
we have a natural water feature right there. Is there some way that we can incorporate that natural water feature into the use? Maybe we open it up to maybe allow access to fishing, and also have a mixed use with dog park, and maybe some overhead canopies to get you out of the, you know, maybe there's a mixed use. And we open it up and use the free natural water feature that's already on site.
Yeah, that's all being discussed.
yeah, that's another big part of the pros plan that we're looking at, is kind of that whole, we're calling it the whole waterfront, part of the borough there, kind of from the pool property, all the way down around, Susquehanna Street, is kind of looking at that and seeing how we could, you know, potentially connect that, in like a planning effort of a walking trail, you know, all the way up to Hoffer Park and maybe even beyond. So
Yeah, whatever we would do, whether it's a, dog park, any kind of recreation, I think there's a pretty good chance that at some point you may see, a potential for, future walking trail through there.
And if we can just add that the opening event for Little Middletown in Huffer Park on Saturday, April 1st, hope everyone can join us from 11 to 2. During those hours of the event, we will also have a table and a small exhibition to share with the community on the PROS plan, on the comprehensive plan of some of the ideas that are being put forth for parks and green spaces and recreation all around the borough. And so if you come that day, please stop by and take a look at really the exciting and ambitious plans for Middletown going forward. Little Middletown is kind of the launch, if you will, of more to come.
Yeah, and, just real quick, I mean, there's a lot of chatter recently on social media about the park since it's going to be opening, good and bad. I mean, and critical and non-critical, but it's going to be a great facility for the kids. But I believe in truth and facts, and even when you're critical of something and don't agree with it, you still should be factual. So I want to just kind of go on the record and let everybody know that in your packet today is the actual construction cost, because we were making our final payment today for Little Middletown, and the construction cost was not $1.2 million, it's $0.984 million, about $200,000 less than reported by some on Facebook. It also was not reported accurately on where the money came from. All the money, half of the money came from, well, next to half of the money came from the federal government through a Land Water Conservation Fund Federal Parks Program, which came through by way of DCNR, but that's federal money. And then another $460,000 came from the state's Department of Community and Economic Development, which left about $25,000 came from local donations, and the final $30,000 came from the American Rescue Plan, which was, again, federal money. So if anybody was curious, it was all money from outside the county and the borough.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Kleinpeter.
Good explanation.
Number 7?
Yep, number 7, we have in your packet a new job description that I drafted for our high voltage technician. In other words, that's an electric lineman, journeyman electric lineman in Middletown. And what we did was we combined 2 jobs into one in this job description. We combined the electric lineman Class A position with our utility technician, the electrician who maintains our substations. And we did that as a promotional path in the future to help retain people here and also to help recruit. Currently, we're down 2 linemen, and we're having a hard time recruiting those folks at the current wage for a Class A lineman. So this new job description, which combines 2 duties together, is in your packet with a new hourly rate assigned to that, and a side letter agreement that we are prepared to submit to the Teamsters Union for their signature should Borough Council approve this action. So my plan is to entertain any questions that you might have tonight, and if you're okay with it, we'll put it on the agenda for March to vote on it.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. We'll be moving forward with submitting requests or putting out requests for our September 2nd fireworks. We're going to look for bids. The folks who did it the last couple of years, I guess, of course, they couldn't hold their price another year, so we're going to have to go out for bids and we'll see how they come in. We'll report back to you. Item number 9, the Historical Restoration Commission is asking the council to seek residents to serve on their commission. Commission has, requires 7 members and currently only has 4. So we put a notice on Facebook, and anybody interested, anybody knows anybody interested, hearing the sound of my voice tonight, please get in touch with us and let us know if you're interested. Historical Society is applying for a Dauphin County Tourism Grant, so I supplied them with a letter of support on behalf of council for that. And then item number 11, we received our annual water recovery report from the joint venture, which shows the calculations for the 2023 water and sewer rate increases that Veolia is applying to this year's services.
What is that rate? Do you know that right off the top of your head?
I just know the increase was 13.2% increase in rates.
Okay.
I don't know what it was in dollars. But I can get that to you.
I was just curious. 13% is good enough for me.
And as Councilor Willenbecker pointed out, the grand opening for Little Middletown will be April 1st. We sent out invitations. There will be some dignitaries there. State Representative Mahaffey and Commissioners Priest and Hartwick have already let us know that they're going to join us.
Beautiful.
And so the ceremony will start at 11 a.m. and we'll have a ribbon cutting. And so let your kids know or your grandkids know that we'll have it roped off until after the ribbon cutting. Then they can all charge through at that time. And we're hoping to have some food vendors there. We haven't heard back from many people, maybe one. And maybe some other activities for the kids to do that day. So,
Excellent. Looking forward.
any other questions? If not, we can move on to codes.
Agenda item number 8, codes.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jason.
As you look on the agenda that we have here, the handicap assessments are attached for the next meeting. We recommend approval for those 2 applications that were sent. Phase 1 of the inoperable vehicle ordinance has been completed this past month. I do have that Phase 2 will commence later this month, but it already commenced. We just finished it up this week, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We are, just to give you an idea, we are about 50 violations with just those 2 phases, and we expect a lot more. So it's a concern, so just to give you guys a heads up there. The next bullet point, we were discussing at the last workshop meeting here that we are looking into having third-party home inspectors to check rental inspections.
Right.
I believe, I don't know if I had all this in the one meeting or not, or we've discussed it in detail, but I did meet with that third-party inspector, and they did provide these initial inspection fees. If we were to gauge what our fees would be from a borough standpoint versus a third-party standpoint, they'd be fairly comparable without having the insurance and liabilities and all that stuff on the
Where's the
borough.
fee schedule at?
On
I
the
have it
codes
printed
report.
out in the agenda that I have.
Who pays for these fees?
These would be paid by the landlord.
So we can expect that tenants are going to get an increase in their rents.
There's a possibility to do.
Well, I'd be passing off my fees.
Right.
So, I'm actually not in favor of this, and I don't support this. This is just one more way for landlords in town to jack up their rental rates and even hurt people that are already in this horrible financial crisis that we're dealing with. Can't even afford eggs. to get more money out of them, so not in favor.
Although I think what prompted it, and there is a cost incurred, is to assure the safety of the buildings for the people who live in them. You know, from time to time, we hear from tenants who might come to the borough that there are they feel like there are safety violations, and there's really no way to protect them other than to know what's going on. So,
There has been an increase in tenants reaching out to us for these types of violations.
Mhm.
I could put a percentage in there, but just today I went to visit a property that the plaster fell down in front of their living room, and they've called the property maintenance people twice to get it done months ahead, and still hasn't been done. So there's those types of circumstances that occur that
Have they reached out to, have they, like Judge Judy or anybody locally to?
they are in the process of getting an escrow account in place to put their rent into that to get the process repaired.
And what's the borough's, how is the borough getting involved with this? What are we doing, or how are we getting in the middle of this between the landlord, the tenant, and Judge Judy?
For me, it would be a violation of the IPMC. So they're not having a safe house inside. So we'd have to send a letter to those owners for those violations. Then we also guide them to nonprofit organizations to develop the escrow accounts and all that stuff.
And these tenants came to us,
They came to me, yes.
and it's getting sorted out.
Yes,
So the system works.
it's working, yeah.
Okay. So the system is working. There was an issue, they came to us, action's being taken.
Yeah, this would be more of maybe a proactive stance so that we don't be reactive. We get it before a ceiling collapses on someone's head in the bed.
I mean, if it's for safety, then I think we should enact a program where we go into every home in the borough of Middletown, because there can be safety concerns in any home.
I agree.
I mean, you could have a single mother with a 5-year-old that has unsafe conditions that owns the home. So how do you protect them?
Right.
So there is, I feel that I'm not in favor of it.
Right.
I'm just not in favor of it.
we'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, I do see the one end. However, the other person, you have the owner, and then you have the owner making money off somebody that's renting. So that's the one decision over there.
The other sad fact is that we have a lot of property owners who are slumlords, and they don't pay attention to their properties. Most homeowners do. That's the distinction. So but thank you for this,
Yep.
Jason. Thank you.
And there actually is a legal distinction too.
There
It's, you can regulate landlords because they're in a commercial end of it. You can't
A
go in
homeowner.
and demand to walk into everybody's houses. So it is a different world legally.
Mr. President, before we move on to electric, I have one thing that was a last-minute thing that isn't in my report. I just want to make you aware of. You probably recall several months ago, the county water resource enhancement program, the REP plan we called, and that's the group that we joined through the county and for dealing with our MS4 requirements to remove sedimentation from our stormwater systems. Instead of building our own stormwater retention, sedimentation removal, we found that it was cheaper to go with the county and join in the project down in Conawaga, stream restoration. So that was all approved by you folks, but what we have to do now is we have to amend the DEP plan. DEP is the one who gives us the permit for the MS4 stormwater plan. And in that permit is a thing called a pollution reduction plan. And that pollution reduction plan had us building our own system for removing the sediment. Now that we're in with the county, we have to revise that pollution reduction plan, which HRG is working on for us. And we will have that before you at the business meeting for you to vote and approve that, adopting that revision of that pollution reduction plan that we can submit to DEP.
Ken, we wouldn't be voting on that until,
Advertising, we're going to be advertising, correct?
there's a public hearing March the 6th.
Yeah, we had to get.
We have
public
advertised, the
comments.
public hearing comes up on 7th, and then the following meeting, we'll be voting. So, it's on our website now. Anybody wants to look at it, it's in our office. You can look at the pollution reduction plan, give us your comments, or come to our next meeting, give us your comments.
It's a great read. I've read it.
Ian, may I ask Jason a question?
You wrote it.
Go for it. Go for it.
Jason, may I ask a quick question? When you were giving us a report on the phases of the inoperable vehicle ordinance, you said it is a concern. What is your concern? What is concerning you?
The amount of violations based on the ordinance that's in place. It will clean up the town, but we have to decide how the length of time is given. We have 3 months, so that gives them 3 months to get things cleared, and we've only done 2 phases, and I was hoping I'd be done in 3 phases, but I see it in like maybe 4 or 5 phases.
Oh, wow.
So, and we've been doing maybe about 20 violations per phase, and we still have to follow up the first phase
Right.
with those 3 months, and then the second phase and the third phase. So it's a lot of labor-intensive checking with
Mm-hmm.
ensuring the compliance of the new ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 9, electric. Mr. Wilsbach.
Just a couple action items that are also in the point of interest there. We approved, we revised our emergency action plan to fit today's circumstances with call-outs and the lack of manpower. So that's before council to approve. And we're also looking for council's approval to work with HRG to get an EV charging grant for the borough here. Now's the time, if council is interested in putting in some EV chargers, now's the time to go after the money that's out there.
Are you talking about for like on borough property?
Correct, level 2s. Level 2s maybe like here in the parking lot. It's, one way to look at it is it could be a draw for your downtown. So people will charge and go to a restaurant. Maybe a level 3 if it covers the cost, but level 3 are pretty expensive to install. So I'll be looking for councils. We should have the proposal for you by voting session. So
We're looking into, I'm working with our financial service group, see what's out there, see what's worth going after based on what we're proposing.
right.
In the past, a lot of the ones that we have looked at are focused more on major travel routes. Like
Correct.
just off I-81.
81 corridor.
So, yeah, we're doing our best. Lauren's looking into that for me.
Okay.
See what we can find for you. As soon as we find something, we'll work with you and
Super.
get your proposal for that.
Okay. Also, as Ken mentioned there, he changed the job descriptions for the linemen to include, since we're going to be losing our substation technician, it's hard enough to find a lineman, and it's going to be hard enough to find a substation guy that's qualified. So we're just going to include the 2 into 1, and then start training, the 1 lineman that we do have in the substation field. So, not that he hasn't had some experience in the past, but he's going to have to step up the knowledge of what Dale has always done.
Excellent.
We only had 1 application since last month, and he turned the offer down also. So I guess what we're going up to 3 or 4 months now with no one.
Were you able to get feedback on, I mean, you don't have to share now, but were you at least able to get feedback on why he declined the position?
Not the last one.
Okay.
He did live out in Ohio, and he didn't want to travel anymore. And I know that our rate was lower than the rate he was being paid, but you know, sometimes when you don't have to travel, there's a big makeup for that. And he was getting up in age, and he just didn't want to travel. I thought it would have been a good fit, maybe to help like a new guy, or if, you know, we did hire one apprentice lineman, but you know, as for qualified electric linemen, it's still pickings are slim. You know. If there's any other questions on my report or any other
Greg,
questions,
any word on the cost of service report?
we had two webs with him, and he went back with the final questions or the final results, what we had as far as budgets went and pricing for debt service and such, to give us our final plan. So what he reviewed with us was his preliminary report for the cost of service, and I don't know how long he plans on taking, but it didn't sound like very long to do the final plan,
Okay.
to wrap it up.
Any other questions for Mr. Rosebach? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 10, Finance. Sally?
Good evening.
Good evening, Sally.
I don't have anything that I need to discuss, so do you have any questions on anything that I have? We still have not received our Victim of Crimes Task Force payment, so I'll have to follow up with that because we were confirmed. The only other new thing I really have, besides updates, is our Global Payment, who's the bank that does our online bill pay, raised their fee from $1.25 to $2. And so I went back to see what the impact was, and I put that in my report. So our average bills are around $125 per month, and I only used one billing cycle, but if anybody pays $80 or more, they're still not being affected by that raise of the transaction. We really don't have any control over that. That's a bank fee for them processing a credit card. The other thing that we've seen that's very different is a lot of our businesses are actually using the online bill pay, which I thought was interesting. But so it is increasing our monthly bank fees pretty dramatically. However, we are also seeing higher interest on our pool cash that's offsetting. So I'm not concerned about it at this point. But you are going to see higher bank fees.
Is that a credit card process then?
The bank fee is what we...
No, I mean the customer's doing a credit card process.
No, we do not pass the bank fees to our customers.
No, the customer's paying with a credit card.
Yes,
Can we also enable ACH?
yes.
Because if you enable ACH, I believe
It's not,
fees,
it's an automatic draft that we would do.
like for our commercial customers,
Yes.
maybe are paying larger. And Mr. Seitz, who's in the banking world, may be able to help educate us on this a little bit more. If they're paying ACH, that really those fees we shouldn't be seeing.
There'd be an
Correct.
ACH fee, but it's not
Yeah.
as high as the
Yeah,
bank card fee.
Correct. So we could, so what I'm getting is, like, I know for my customers and my business, I can send invoices and I can select a credit card, ACH, or both. So I can pick and choose kind of what form I want to give that specific customer. Are we able to mobilize like that or not?
I believe we did talk about that at one point, and, I'll go back and I'll relook through it. There was I think, an issue with the ACH, because we have people asking us, like, they want to go into our bank account and pull out the money. I'm not sure they'll allow us to go into their bank account and pull out the money. So.
I have no idea how it works. I don't know how it works. I just know
I'll go back and look at that, but I know we did talk about it last year before we went to the online, billing and everything, online email billing.
Mr. Renner, one thing I'll say is banks and businesses are pushing them to go to credit card processing because cash flow.
Mm.
So banks are even telling the businesses to use your credit card because you're getting rewards and it increases your cash flow. So
I just
you
know.
almost have to eliminate the ability altogether.
Well, I just know, like, for my personal business, I like to promote more the ACH because I'm not getting hit with those fees. Or my fees are limited. You know what I mean? I'm not getting hit with all those processing fees on the credit card side of things. So I try to push ACH or check, but.
I mean, you can offer a discount for ACH, but does it outweigh the cost? I've seen people do that.
And we have to have kind of a more strict, process for ACH because, one of the issues we have is we get an ACH in, we don't even know who it's from. So we see it on our bank statement, so it takes,
Reconciling then is going to be a nightmare.
yeah. So I'll go back and take a look at it, and.
Food for thought. Just food for thought. I
Yeah.
don't know how it works.
Okay.
No, thank
I'll
you.
definitely look at it. Any other questions?
Have you been receiving calls from residents or businesses about them receiving calls saying it's someone from like the borough and their electric is going to be shut off because they haven't paid their bills, but it's not a borough number?
No, I have not heard anything.
Because I had a business actually reach out to me over the weekend because they had received a call that the person said they were from the borough, but it wasn't like the borough, borough hall's number, and that their bill, they were like 2 weeks late, and that they wanted them to wire money
Oh.
because they said they were going to turn off their electric, but they had paid their electric bill like 2 weeks prior. And then oddly, another business had posted the same thing had happened to them, and it was the same number. So I was just curious, and just wanted to make sure that
Maybe we could
people,
post something on Facebook.
yeah, know
I'll
that,
write something up.
yeah, the borough's not going to call you and ask.
Yeah, we would never call.
Yeah, maybe put something out there.
Maybe Dan has an idea on this one. Yeah,
I
that
haven't
sounds
heard.
like a crime.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just,
I can probably get the phone number for you. One other thing, I was looking at the reports. I'm a little confused on some of the balances.
Okay, it's because I don't have all the detail on here, so it looks like it jumps, but if I had all the detail, you'd see debits and credits in there.
Okay, so for the next month, can we get those? And the
Sure.
24,000 in the kids' capital account, that is going to,
Hoffer Park,
right, okay, so that'll be taken out then, right?
yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure when that was gonna happen. But on the other ones, if we could, because the one I'm really confused on is the ornament balance.
No, I can tell you what that, I believe that that's money for, the, sleigh rides that we have just sitting there. I'll go back and look at that one specifically, but I'm almost positive we have money that Jim had collected, over and above, and I think that that's what that is for.
Okay, yeah, if you could send me a breakdown of
Yeah.
that.
anybody else have any other questions for Sally? Excellent, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Lloyd.
I'm sorry, one other question. What are the, Houseworks bird houses? Do you know, on the credit card?
Yeah, those are birdhouses that were purchased for kids to make and put, what, Hopper Park? Put them out in the parks.
What, like what?
Just gonna have the youth do some, and if there's some left over, I can see if there was a Girl Scout group in town here that painted some trash cans for Oak Hills.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to mention that at the last, I just noticed them recently. They weren't always out there, and they are adorable. I love them. They're really cute. I like them. They look nice. That park is very nice. It's very quaint, and it looks like its own little community in there every time I see people. So that's it. I was just wondering.
Nope, that's okay.
Thank you, Sally. Agenda item number 11, Middletown Fire Department. Will you please join us?
For January of this year, the department ran 49 calls, held 8 station trainings, and multiple members attended different classes up at HAC over the course of the month for certification classes through the state. I know we've been bouncing back and forth with the budget questions and everything like that. The 2023 proposal that Jim and Earl put together, I believe you guys have received a copy of this. Do you guys have any questions? Nothing? I have nothing else.
Excellent. Thank you.
Currently, as of tonight, I know we're up, February got pretty busy. We're up to like 90-some calls already for the year with 2 more fires. So
Wow.
we're keeping busy. Anything for me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Number 12, Highway. Mr. Miller.
In kind of response to you there, Angie, yes, I would like to try and keep kids involved with our things as much as we can.
Well, I just didn't know if that was for an event or something that they're going to be painting them, or.
I had some money in the parks budget, and we're going to use old signposts, and then we can have them put their birdhouses, and we'll scatter them throughout some of our open spaces throughout town, and then see if any birds decide to move in.
I think that's a great idea. I just didn't know if they were ones that we bought. And those are going to be done by the youth in town?
That's my plan, yep. Woody Waste site will be opening here in a couple weeks for the new season. Working with HRG, talked with Public Safety Director Wright and Josh. We're working on the Grand View traffic study out there to hone that in a little bit. Some repairs have been done to Fry Park play structure. New bleachers have been installed around town. If you've seen them, they are anchored so that they don't float away. We still have some to put out at Fry once the ground dries a little bit and we can get back there without making huge ruts. Only action item I have would be to the scope of work from M3T, the camera vendor. It's in your packet, was dated 1/31/23 for 9 additional cameras down at Hoffer Park, including ones that would be a license plate reader at the exit. So we can keep a better eye on what's going on down there.
Cool. That's a good call.
And Matt, there are, the new Little Middletown with the new lighting that's around the park, the new playground equipment, that also included, there are cameras there now, correct?
Yes,
So everybody should know they're live.
they are live.
We
I
can
do
see what's
check
going
them.
on.
We've arrested 1 or 2 people who have been inside there already. So the cameras do work. We have a little cat that visits every morning around 2 a.m., nice black and white cat. So they do work. So we are being successful with that, excuse me. I've also ordered some anti-graffiti coating to put on. We're going to work with the youth organization here once the weather gets a little bit warmer in a couple weeks to retouch up the mural that unfortunately has a tremendous amount of graffiti on it. And I ordered, as I said, some graffiti barrier, anti-graffiti coating that we can spray on there as well as our other walls in an effort to kind of keep down the tomfoolery. But it's pretty much, it's a weekly event somewhere. We're getting either vandalism or graffiti. So I would just ask that we add that to the agenda. I have just sent another email this evening asking for a follow-up for the exterior cameras for this building that were part of the Overdeer project as well, and our entry system. So I will follow up the phone call with them tomorrow to find out where we stand with that. That was all part of phase one as well. They rushed to get the cameras at Little Middletown, and they were awaiting the parts for this to come in. It's been 2.5 months now. I need to find out where they are.
Yay,
Yes.
that's great.
So,
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
anything for me? Yes, ma'am.
Can you remind us what the, cost of the woody waste tags are? Does anyone remember? Are they $10 now, or?
I believe they were 10, and out of town, I think was
15 or, I think it
I
was,
think 20 or 25 maybe. Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't either.
And the Grandview traffic study, when you say Grandview, are you talking Spring Street, that whole area right there?
Yeah, it was come down to Spring, the whole way down to Maine. Yep.
And one other question, the repairs at the library, can you tell me what you've done there?
The library has this, there's just a lot of things at the library, actually. One of the roof scuppers, was leaking, so water was coming down the exterior wall, and it was soaking through the brick below grade, and it was causing effervescence in the stairwell. So, had staff go up and scrape and brush all the effervescence off, and they repaired the scupper. So we're gonna let that dry for a week or so, and then put some, new material on the stairwell. The guys were up there, they got me some pictures. There's a couple patches that are gonna need to be redone on the roof, so I'm gonna start getting quotes on things for the library. A lot of the wooden windows where the fire truck used to go in on Catherine Street, there's a fair bit of wood on those that is probably beyond just scraping and painting at this point. So I'm gonna have to start pulling together some things, and there's a fair number of bricks that are gonna need repointed on the building as well. It is probably about 130 years old, but it's going to start requiring some maintenance.
Excellent. Well, thank you for keeping us in the loop.
You're welcome. As always, let me know if you have any questions on anything.
Agenda item number 13. Director Wright?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Sunday, we are giving is our testing day for police officer testing. There's 11 applicants who met the requirements, who are willing to take the test and want to come work for Middletown. We actually solicited the pre-service cadets in the academy. We were able to get a list of cadets from the academy director who weren't associated with the police department. We solicited them specifically with the education reimbursement, and 6 of them applied for the job here in Middletown.
Oh,
Two of the
that's good
applicants, I think,
news.
are existing police officers, and 2 others are graduates who have not yet been hired by another department. The county consortium is done. There is no longer a county consortium for testing for police officers in Dauphin County. We need to amend our civil service ordinance because it specifically says that the testing will be done by a county consortium. It also indicates that you are required to have Act 120 to apply for the position or be eligible for Act 120. That's something that we may need to reconsider, depending on how this round of hiring goes. If we still don't fill our positions after this round, we may need to consider actually hiring pre-service individuals and sending them through the academy, offering them a lower rate of pay as a certified police officer, but still paying them as a Middletown police officer. I think we could amend the ordinance to say council has the authority or the discretion to decide based on hiring trends and circumstances, whether Act 120 is required or not. That way we wouldn't have to change the ordinance every time. If hiring trends change in 2 or 3 years and there's abundance of graduates who are looking for jobs, we wouldn't need to change the ordinance. But I may be asking the academy director to save us some seats for the July academy, and that would require us to change that ordinance. So I'm asking permission to work with council to try to get that changed and try to amend that somehow. I also attached some year-end numbers, some Part 1 and Part 2 crimes for the UCR. I don't know if these were ever presented to you before. I added a couple previous years. I had Sydney go back and grab some numbers off the UCR website. The UCR was done and submitted by previous administrators. It was just never tracked. In other words, we didn't add them up for the year and present them and compare them and see what crime issues were occurring and issues we need to address. So those are, just real quick, Part 1 crimes are divided into violent crimes or crimes against person and property crimes. And there's just 2 different categories for those for your review. And then Part 2 crimes are a completely different type of crime incidents. Many of them are based on police proactiveness. So, for example, if you have a rise in DUIs, does that mean more people are driving drunk, or does that mean the police are attempting to address it more? So just because there's an increase or a decrease, you have to look at other factors to try to determine what's going on.
Right.
That's there for your review. And just real quick, I wanted to go over, there's some obligations on law enforcement and reporting statistics to the Department of Justice. One of them is obviously the UCR. Another is hate crimes that occur in Middletown we're required to report. And there's a new reporting requirement this year called use of force reporting. That is required of every police department to report to the Department of Justice now. If there's an incident in Middletown Borough where there's a death of a person due to law enforcement or serious bodily injury to somebody due to law enforcement or the discharge of a firearm, by law enforcement, we're required to report to the Department of Justice some statistics concerning the incident. Specifically, gender, age, race, ethnicity, height, weight, years of service for the officer, gender, age, race, ethnicity for the person who was injured, and these need to be reported on a monthly basis. Reporting one doesn't necessarily mean that you've done anything wrong or in trouble. It's just a way for the Department of Justice to track these types of figures. And in line with that also, we are now required to report the initial contacts we have with citizens every month. So I'm not sure if there'll be a correlation if you have use of force reporting incidents you report, and then you have 10 use of force incidents you report and you have 20 initial contacts for the month. Maybe one can assume you have an issue in your police department. I'm guessing that's the reason for the data collection. But just to let you know, those are things that we are now required to report as a part of our day-to-day operations. Also, there's a Crime Watch impact report in your packets that breaks down Crime Watch and statistics and numbers and values and things that we've done in the borough with Crime Watch. There's some comparative numbers to show how we relate to similar municipalities of the same size, and also some comparative numbers of how we rate with other Dauphin County departments. Clearly, there's some departments that engage at a much higher rate than us, but we actually do pretty well compared to some departments of our own size. Again, if you guys have any questions as a result of any of this information I'm giving you, let me know any other time or even now. And I think Mr. Miller talked about the traffic study proposal. We're still in discussions with HRG on that. We want to make sure that, we get one shot at this. This has a large impact on driving and parking in the community, and we want to make sure we come at it from every angle before we present it, because we do get one shot at evaluating this, and we want to make sure we do it right. So we'll have something for you in the future shortly. One last thing that's not on my report, but on Thursday we're attending a training, a tabletop exercise at Dauphin County Department of Public Safety on a flooding incident. So myself and Public Works and Codes is going to participate in a tabletop exercise to better prepare us for flooding, which we know is something that can impact our community.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wright? I actually have something, if nobody else has anything. I've been noticing, and maybe you can attest to this, a huge uptick of soliciting, where companies are walking around door to door soliciting their business.
They're required to have a permit, and
Well, see, that's the, is it a permit, or are they just required to
Register.
register with the police department?
no, they're required to apply for a permit, and there's a fee.
Do we, do they have to do that here at the Borough Building,
Or
or?
they do it at the police department.
Police department.
And we issue them a laminated little card that says you're authorized to solicit. And we just issued three or four of them to Verizon. So if Verizon's the agency that's soliciting, they're the only permits that are out there that I've issued. The permit's good for up to a year, so somebody could have applied for one in January, February or March of last year. The only active ones are Verizon.
Is that information on our website pretty clear? Is it like a tab permit?
I don't know, but I can certainly post it on Crime Watch that it's required. And I can also post on Crime Watch when people apply for a permit and receive a permit to let people know that.
I think we should do that, but I definitely think that the first step is educating the public and letting them know that you need to go to the borough website, click this tab, get this information, so they know the steps. 'Cause there's,
Most solicitors know that they're required, not all, but most solicitors who travel from municipality to municipality are under that impression. A resident who starts a new business or something would probably not know that.
no, and I just want to make sure that there is a, because I didn't even know the actual what the steps were. But I've been noticing a huge impact, at least in our part of town. Yeah. Anybody else have anything else?
I do. In reference to the permits, is there a time period that you're allowed to solicit here if you have the permit, or is it basically any time you want to solicit?
I believe it's daylight to sunset is the.
Okay, because I noticed people posting on social media that they were getting people soliciting them after 9 o'clock at night.
No, and if there's a permit issued and they violate, I issue a permit and I print out a copy of the solicitation ordinance that clearly has rules, and we highlight them and say, if we get any complaints against you based on violating these rules, we're going to pull your permit. So if people have complaints about solicitation, they should call us and talk to Sydney, because Cindy maintains the list and provides the documentation to them when they apply for their permit. And then we'll make a decision on whether or not we should pull it based on their behavior.
Okay, I was just wondering that. Okay.
I'm not sure if you'll know this answer, it might be someone else, but, is the TV down in the lobby not working? You know, the one that plays the Crime Watch?
Last I saw it was, but I haven't been in the library.
Because I think last night I drove by and it wasn't on, it was just like a gray screen or something.
Yeah, I don't know. We can check on that.
Excellent. Oh, good.
Director Wright, I think a resident might have a question.
I-
Why is it so hard to contact your department during the daytime hours?
We're open 9 to 2, direct phone call.
All the time.
There's somebody at the desk
And I
all
get
the time.
answer machines, and then there's nobody in the office a lot of times too.
Between 9 to 2, there's somebody sitting at that desk the entire time, unless she is in the restroom or helping an officer retrieve some police records or something along those lines. Yeah, she's there all the time. And my business card has my cell phone on it, so if it's normal business hours, you can call my cell phone anytime you want.
Okay. And all the, police, visits that have been made last year, are they all on record?
Are all police what?
Reports,
Yes.
they're all on record?
Any contact with a citizen is required to be documented with the report. I'm not going to say occasionally one or two doesn't slip through the cracks, but there should be every contact should be a police report.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dan. Anybody else have any questions for him?
One quick thing, solicitation-wise, repercussions on not having a permit while soliciting, are
somebody's soliciting without a permit, and there's somebody that has been issued a permit in the past, or has been warned about it before, they can be cited. If you're just a first time in the borough and aren't educated enough on knowing that it's required, you're directed to the police department, you're provided an application, and you're told if you continue without completing this, you'll be cited.
And now are we like, so Verizon has 4 permits, we're requiring them to have a permit for each person?
That's correct. They pay a fee for each person.
Are they can carry those?
They are.
Oh my God, this is not a question and answer.
Certain companies like Verizon even go
General
above and
comment coming
beyond.
up.
I know.
Voluntarily provide
Invite
basic
everybody.
criminal history reports as part of the application. A permit is technically a non-criminal, police service. So I would not run a criminal history on somebody. Just to issue them a permit. I can use public record searches, and I can use some other things that will help us determine whether this is somebody you want knocking on your door. But I can't technically run a criminal history for solicitation purposes. But we do our best with that and make sure that the person knocking on your door is as legit as you can get, you know. Again, sometimes solicitors overextend their welcome and be aggressive, but that's when we rely on the public to let us know so we can try to help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At this time, agenda item number 14, joint venture Viola. Not with us this evening. I guess they don't want to.
I would like to say in 2018, I did request hydrant studies as far as flow charts and everything, and they have yet to provide that since 2018.
Oh, really?
I would like to try to get a hold of that. Is there any way to get a hold of those? Anybody we can contact to get flows of testing of these hydrants in the borough
You're the project manager.
of Viola?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can give you her information.
All right, thank you.
Agenda item number 15, council. Does council have anything they wish to bring up, discuss, talk about? No? Excellent. At this time, do I have general public comment? Ms. Rochelle?
What I was going to ask, Rochelle Reed, 448 Grant Street. What I wanted to ask was, when you guys were talking about the solicitor, there used to be a sign, and I don't know if it's still there, at the end, at each end of the town. I know there's one out by Lytle Farm, because every time I go out to the vet and come back, I see it. And it talks about solicitors. So there's definitely signs that tell people if you're coming into Middletown, you must register at the police station. Are the rest of them still up?
We had to remove the one that was up here, because it was a PennDOT's right away. And I believe there still is a borough sign on 441. Yeah, on the Chandler sign. I think there's still one out on North Union Street. I'm not sure if there's still one on.
There's one down at Lytle. I know there's one there.
I'll drive them and look at it and see.
Okay.
Any other?
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
Inoperable vehicles. I heard about this tonight, and I gotta ask a question. How do you say that a boat on a trailer is an inoperable vehicle?
The storage of vehicles. So we have inoperable vehicles and storage.
But if it's on somebody's property,
You're allowed one storage vehicle on the property.
and there's only one boat on the property, how can you make them take it off their property?
If it's the one, I can't. If it's more than one, that's in the ordinance.
But there are people in town that have, like, multiple cars on their property.
And that's what this phase is all about. I'm on phase 2 of that.
Me and you gonna be friends. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
My sister, Maria Frisbee, she sent me down here. I came to the last meeting, but I told her Mary said I could bring it back this time. She's, I'll read it here. Maria, Middletown, resident, Maria Frisbee, a former MS Pennsylvania 2004, will be on the cover and feature in the magazine 50 Plus Life in March 2023. Attacks or distributions of points for the magazine. That's what she put.
Very nice.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
She told me, the mayor was, last time I came, and she said, I'm supposed to give this out to y'all. Papers. Then I got two other things. One for my partner here, Ron. The tenant windows, what's the darkness on that? How dark can that be?
There's a percentage that I don't know the answer to this, but I have officers who
Thank you,
pull
sir.
vehicles over for this every day. They issue warnings for it. We have a tint meter. They just slide over the glass and it provides a percentage of light that's allowed to come through. And they issue warnings for it all the time. It's an officer safety issue. It's a
Yeah, three there.
safety issue for the person driving the car. And they issue warnings and require them to use it. I don't know what the percentage is, but we have a device that we use to measure it.
This gentleman said he thinks they're picking on him, and there's other cars, and like, there's 3 or 4 in the neighborhood that got those dark windows.
Right.
Then over town, I know the some too.
Yeah, the vehicle has to be in operation for it to be a violation. So if it's a parked vehicle, we won't knock on somebody's door and say, we need to check your meter. But just like any other traffic violations, we attempt to be as consistent as possible. But some officers put more emphasis on something like that than others do.
Okay.
So if one guy's driving on the street one day, it doesn't get stopped, and another person is, it might just be which officers are working and which officers have had the training on using the specific device to test.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much.
You bet.
And one more thing, I got enough time?
Go ahead.
Okay, is there funds available for people to, to fix their house up?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Not from,
No, my uncle, Richard Jeffries wanted to know. If he wanted to fix his house. Yeah, so I said, I'll ask him down here tonight.
the borough doesn't have.
Not within the borough.
I don't know.
No, wasn't that?
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other general public comment?
Yeah, I'm Arthur Roy, and I'm having a problem with this code office. Here's my house here. I'm trying to stay with that antique, historical society look. But here on this other side of the house, the code guy was there. I called the code guy, and this was from 2021 that I called him. And there was trash cans there. Now there's batteries, this yellow tape, this line, blocks, half painted stuff.
You said this is your
ladders,
property?
piece of rubber hanging on it. No, this is what I look at when I come out my door on the side of the house. And then my major fence, the one that's been there for 50 years, it's a Sears and Roebuck, but it was broken through just so this yellow line and stuff can go here because he had this survey done, which he only owns like 8 foot of the 8 foot of the
Walkway.
side of the property. And if you were to take a post and put it on that 8 foot, which is 4 foot, and you divide it, you get 4 foot. Nobody can walk on 4 foot. And he's been just breaking everything around the property, trespassing. And I told him when I first talked to him that I was under duress. And what does he do? He turns around and starts writing me up, writing me fines for everything that he has, tires, blocks, anything along that side, ladders, on this 8 foot piece of bench or piece of property. He brings all his trash in the yard from 2021. I said about bricks and blocks. He's throwing more blocks out there and keeps on throwing them. The other day I stopped by to see this guy to show him that I was removing any blocks that I had.
Because the first set of blocks that I moved up here by the high school, and I talked to the superintendent up there, and he let me put them in the ground right there on the turnpike. And I've been trying to do my part, trying to fix up my house at the same time. He caught me in the middle of summer when I was trying to paint that decorative front of the house in the antique style, which I was doing by hand. All the little decorative ends, numbers, everything, lights. And the harder I tried to work, the more he would come at me from the side for other stuff. And when you go to paint, it's only at a certain time. You know, usually during the summer when it's warm, and that was the time I was trying to get it in. But this guy, the other day, well, I had a hearing with him a couple weeks ago, and this guy, he comes to the hearing, he tells me which I've always asked for, was a list, just a simple list. He said in court he had to give me a list. It took him 2 weeks to get it, and I had to go get it. He's always full of crap, and I'd like him to be off my back.
Well, thank you for the,
And I'm not the only one. There's other people in town. I just see it first, and I'll say something.
we appreciate the feedback.
All right.
We'd love to hear it.
Hi, Anthony Beard, 325 Elm Court, and I agree the Oak Hills Park is really nice. My kids love it over there. Unfortunately, that's not what I'm here to talk about, but I agree it's really nice. I did get a recent notice violation, was dated January 27th. I received it February 1st about the sidewalk and I guess also the driveway apron, and I'm unclear if the notice is about the curb as well. So the notice kind of is unclear as to whether that's included or not. And I would be 100% clear. I totally get the sidewalk. People walk down that. No problem with that. I guess I'm kind of new to town. I've only been here 7 years. And I know this isn't supposed to be a Q&A, but when was this ordinance about this driveway apron passed? Is that something that can be explained?
I thought we went over this already with the driveway apron. Your driveway apron right now is constructed of what?
I moved in, it was asphalt.
And you're not repairing anything or changing anything?
No, sir.
Didn't we talk about this several months ago that we weren't?
I don't know the details of this case, so I can't.
It was a while ago, but there was another issue with a resident that bought a house that had the same thing. The apron was asphalt, and because they weren't doing anything to it, it didn't need to be changed.
Yeah, my apron's asphalt.
Yeah, what did the violation say with your apron?
The subject knows the violation, sidewalks apron, about third way down, next to asterisks, you must repair or replace the deteriorated sidewalk slabs, curb, and the driveway apron must be replaced with concrete.
We did have, this was brought up.
You remember this, Mr.
It
Dunn?
was more
Can you
than a
chime
couple
in?
months. It was like
Yeah,
last year.
I remember the concept being that if it was a long existing
And there was,
asphalt but didn't need repairs, that we weren't
And I,
do that.
yeah, and I can tell you the
I don't
house
know
that it
if
brought it
Those
up
would've-
was not changed. It's
yeah,
still
mine
asphalt.
was looked at.
Yeah, that may have been before the time of current codes officer.
That was,
And it
what was
isn't,
his young man's
you
name?
wouldn't pick
It was
up
Harry.
that
That was
nuance in
Harry.
reading the ordinance.
Yeah.
So
What's the
that,
date on your?
It's dated January 27th, 2023, received it February 1st.
If the aprons are deteriorated and they're asphalt, they are to be replaced with concrete. If the apron is asphalt and maintained, there's no change.
yeah, I think that's correct.
Mhm.
If it's deteriorated to the point where it needs significant repairs, then it kind of loses that
What would
unofficial grandfathering, and it would have to then be cement on the new one.
my question is, if I was in this gentleman's shoes, I would say define significant repairs. If my apron is, say, 12 feet by 5 feet, and I have a 2-foot chunk by 2 inches, like we fill potholes all the time. So like, we fill potholes, we don't necessarily rip up every street. Just because the street has some potholes, we don't rip it up and replace it. We fill the potholes. So I guess my question is define significant repair. Because if that's the case, we should apply the same method, and if our street has 4 potholes, we should just grind the whole thing up and put new asphalt down. Instead of just patching it.
I agree with what you're saying, but
I'm just, that would be if I was putting myself in your shoes. That's what I'd want to know.
Percentage of the square foot of the area. There you go.
So,
If it's 10 square feet and more than 30%, so whatever you guys would decide, but there's your significant.
Yeah, well, I guess I obviously need to figure it out because the first time I knew this was an ordinance, I don't know what the process was for notifying. First time I found out this was an ordinance was this notification. Sorry, I don't come out to town hall meetings, don't go on the Facebook page that much. Maybe it was there. But, so I have 3 months is what it says, and I've already got an estimate for $3,000 to take care of this. And like you said, what do you say, horrible financial crisis. So we don't necessarily have the $3,000 just laying around, even if we could have an extension on that. I mean,
Did you have a
I'm just looking for
talk
something
with the-
reasonable.
Did you have a talk with the code office before you came in?
No, sir, I haven't. I
Because
don't
we
know how
do
this is
offer
handled.
plans.
Okay.
If you could talk to Jason about that.
but we also want to know, we may be able to do plans, and we work with residents all the time, but we also want to make sure we're enforcing the right things. Where if it's, we need to drill this driveway apron
And
thing down.
That's where he can
yeah.
have that discussion as well with Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there is guidelines drawn up for these things that the code office follows.
Yeah, that did go back before Jason's time. So a lot of these things, it's kind of funny, somebody new comes in. So we do have to sort that out in this particular case, but, it probably will be good to get some I remember it was probably a couple of years ago when codes worked real hard to come up with, for the sidewalks, if you remember, like pictures of what,
Standards.
might be significant, what's an issue, what isn't. It's always tough, case to case, but, to try to come up with some guidelines, but I think this is one where there was a change in the personnel and, that sort of got, missed, I think.
It definitely came up before, because I remember Ian and I talked about it, and there's numerous letters that went out.
Yeah.
Numerous. Saying the same thing, and at the end of the day, they weren't enforced, and it was
I think we sent other letters out.
Yeah.
Correcting.
saying it wasn't gonna be enforced.
Well, I'm sorry, your name again, sir, was?
Anthony Beard.
Anthony. Tomorrow, get with Jason and get some emails out with the borough manager and Jason, and we'll circle around this and we'll get you some answers, some definitive answers on the next steps.
All right, appreciate it.
But thank you very much for coming and bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Jared Knob. My residence is not in the Middletown Borough, but we do own multiple properties here. Just a couple things I wanted to bring up. The first one, he kind of reminded me of it. If you don't know, the borough ordinances on tires only allow us to have people remove tires if they are not on rims. As a landlord, I've been struggling with people storing tires outside of a building, and I can't do anything from a landlord standpoint, and the borough can't do anything from a zoning standpoint, even though I reported myself. So I could try to tell my tenants to get rid of them. I don't know if that's something that's easier for you guys to pass or not, but I think it is worthwhile in a non-commercial setting where you're supposed to have tires to pass a new ordinance like that. There's tires all over town that probably aren't being touched because they're on a rim. Second thing, the tenant report form. This is my first year handling all that stuff. It's quite a redundant process and quite, I say, annoying and a waste of not only landlords' times, but also I know our zoning team is stressed very hard. I don't know Jason very well, but I've known everybody previously with the different things I'm involved in. I think there are ways that we could be managing that better as a borough, saving manpower, spending more money on maybe a software or something that landlords and the borough can communicate more effectively, especially with tenant turnover. It's a big thing for us. And then again, the zoning department has a ton of people for the size of the borough we are from time to time. So helping them not do things that might feel redundant to their job and meticulous in the process.
I've made comments on that form.
I think the finance department is working on some software that could probably to tie in with the codes office on, when people come in and register for an electric account, like landlords, that will touch on what you're talking about.
And I mean, even on like the floor plan thing, submitting a floor plan every time is kind of, a paperwork pusher and stuff like that. I can imagine what your guys' file room looks like in this place. So 100%, that is awesome if that's something that's in process. The last thing I wanted to bring up comment-wise is about the rental inspections you guys have been talking about. I will stand up in front of Borough Council, whatever record you want, and talk about the value it is to me and my family and what we do in town, and to the people that we know, it is to have a safe community and bring Middletown back to the community. It could be both infrastructure-wise and just involvement-wise. I think that there are ways you can go about it, and there's other communities that have been implementing things at a significantly lower cost, like Steelton, where they're like $70 for your first unit and $20 on top, not like 200 and some for your first unit and stuff like that. And I mean, if you walk down Steelton, hasn't made an impact. Some changes you can't legislate and put money on landlords. Like Ian said, the first thing I said when I saw that, I said, well, I guess that goes into my cost for tenants and a rent increase, which hasn't happened in a long time type deal. And you got to remember that as you get outside investors coming in town, they're going to hit that more than the people living in town doing landlords, because their management property companies are now going to include their time to come out and meet your inspectors. And especially a lot of these buildings that when people walk around town are concerned about and their safety hazards and whatnot are also a lot of times Dauphin County housing approved buildings. So there's other ways that I think we could go about that.
There's definitely a middle ground, not
Yeah.
to interrupt you.
Yeah, definitely middle ground, but I would say that if you are going to have an inspection, be courteous, because Middletown has a track record on making everything more expensive than it needs to be. That there are many examples in 30-mile proximity of what those fees look like in other communities that have them. So thank you for your time.
No, thank you very much for your input. I appreciate it. Go ahead. Do you have something?
I do, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I should have, I had a couple questions for Chief Whitebread, if you could come back up, I'm sorry. So I just, was looking at your report that you gave us, and I apologize, you were so quick on, does anyone have any questions for me, before I really got to read through it? So when you came to us back in, when was it, December?
November.
November, when we were looking at passing the budget, and you had requested extra funding for the fire department because of the increase of everything coming up. So that is why you've been coming to the meetings and giving us this report as requested by council, correct?
Correct. When we were at the meeting, I believe in November, it was discussed that over the course of the next couple months that we would answer any questions that you guys had, moving forward. We got that list narrowed down, I think, from a bunch of questions that you had Jim, Earl, and Sally in the office together trying to figure it out, down to, I think, the last time, there was only 3 questions, so.
That's good.
We're down to that, and they were answered, in this document that James and Earl had prepared, and that's where we're at now.
So am I correct in basically now you're just waiting to find out if we are going to give the extra funding?
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. President, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, there was a $70,000 placeholder put on the side for us, pending any questions and moving forward from there. So, as long as council is satisfied with the question and answers that we have given, that's what we're just waiting on to find out. Fire department's just waiting.
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, I really think we need to get Sally involved, because
Sally, I'm not a money guy, I put out fire.
This is the budget that he's anticipating.
Correct.
So I would think that as we go through the year, as actuals come in, we would consider them, and I think that this is what I explained in my last email, would consider those approved as operating expenses and would cover them. But that would be at the end of the year, or if something goes over throughout the year. So if he's in March, and he's not over any of his budgets at the moment, it's not a discussable issue. But when we get to October or November and he's over his fuel by $2,000, that's when the discussion of actual expenses being reimbursed upon council approval. The second item that was discussed last year was, whether, the fire department's request for an increase to their contribution would be approved by council moving forward. So instead of it being $150,000 every year, it would be $175,000 moving forward. Or whatever amount that, they were requesting, which is
Yeah.
substantial. So those are the two things that I was trying to get them prepared to come before council to talk about them. Those are the two things. But I don't think, based on a budget, we're going to say, we'll give you $25,000 that we put aside.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I understand this. So we put $70,000 aside for them with the understanding that they would answer any questions that we have. They would have to show why they're requesting extra money. But now we're going to make them come to us when they're over. So how are they supposed to pay for those things throughout the year if they do go over? And my second point is, if we're going to micromanage the fire department, why aren't we micromanaging the library that also gets $150,000 from us? I mean, I've never seen anyone from them.
Yeah, they only get 50.
Okay, well, still, they get
Yeah.
$50,000 from us, regardless. I don't care if it's 10.
Well,
If we're
they
gonna-
haven't come to us, I think, and
Right.
asked for anything. I think this discussion was.
So
more-
I'm just gonna throw something out here quick, and this is just quick math that I did sitting here when I first got here, because it popped in my head. Middletown Fire Department hasn't had an increase in their budget since 2012, 2014, somewhere in that time frame. So we're looking at 9 to 11 years since we've been operating on the same amount, never came before council. At $150,000 a year, this isn't even including maintenance or what this is intended for. Let's just talk about the manpower at the Middletown Fire Department and the average calls that you guys got in my year-end report. We documented 2,705 hours last year in 2022. Take 150,000 divided by that, comes out to $55.44. The average number of responders per call is, I'm going to say 7, because it was between 5 and 12, so I go with the medium. For a firefighter to run in the door at the current operating budget that we get, they are getting paid $7.92 to run into a fire and save somebody. That's where I'm going to leave this at.
Well,
We're
here's what I
trying
remember from
everything
last
possible.
November. I hope it's not perceived, Chief Whitebread, as micromanaging. I hope it is not, because what I remember last November is you came before us and said, we are struggling fiscally.
Absolutely.
You
I'm
you
not-
came to us and said that.
Not
In
trying to
fact,
sit
you
here-
even included that if your fiscal situation is not resolved, that this critical service to our community may not continue.
Well, down
And
the
so
road-
out of that, I am so thankful that your staff, your folks and Sally sat down so that you had the support, not the micromanagement, but that you had the support of someone who knows about financing so that you can better understand where things stand in your department and so that we can better understand how to support you financially going forward. That is my recollection of last November.
Absolutely.
And that is what I perceive has been going on since that time.
Correct, and I agree 100%. Don't get me wrong, agree 100%. I just, like I said, stating the facts, when we looked at it,
Right.
as long as it's been, we have survived a very long time.
Yes.
With the cost
And
of
we
inflation,
never,
and I'm
right.
scared to death moving forward.
And here's the other
We're gonna run into
caveat.
a problem.
Your report says that it's been since 2017 that the 150,000 was established, but not since that time has there been a request made for an increase.
And
so we
the
do
biggest thing-
applaud you being as frugal as possible.
And now we're to the
but I
point
think
where
you've
it's
come to the point where
It's stretched out.
it's stretched out. So thank you for working with Sally so that we have better numbers, so that you have better numbers, and we know how this critical service to the community can be supported.
So then, I think that,
Jim's got his hand up too.
I just, there were two things that we were working on. Where does he think he's gonna land in 2023?
Right.
And then there was the request for additional contribution. And
What's
I
the
just
difference?
think there were two separate.
Do we know what the difference is? Do we,
It's so, according to the document, our estimated budget for this year is gonna come out to 172,735.
Yeah.
We're hoping,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, 172 versus the 150.
150.
When we originally requested the placeholder, that
Mhm.
included, which we said we weren't gonna do this year because we came into this late, and that's a capital improvement project doing the roof replacement, which was an additional $22,000. So that brings us up to close to the amount that we were asking for without any actual projections. Now we have projected numbers that they worked with Sally. That capital replacement thing about the roof, we can talk about that this budget year if we need to, moving forward for next year. Don't,
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think one of the things too is their involvement in
Right.
this is important, not my involvement necessarily, but like I think Jim and I talked about, well, if the parking lot needs to be repaved, and it's outside the contribution that they normally get, they have to come to council and request that it's a capital expense. And I just think that was the discussion of getting them set up
Mhm.
to get to the contribution.
I
Right.
think it's great to get a report and see, you know, what your expenses are. I just don't agree with in October, if you're short somewhere, that you have to come and ask for money that we budgeted for you. That's my issue.
Well, it wasn't budgeted, it was a placeholder.
A placeholder. Okay, so regardless,
I
the
mean, I don't think
placeholder.
we had the time to really think about what that money was going to be for. I think the bigger discussion is the increase in the contribution that they want.
So is there money in the budget for them or not?
There's a placeholder, yes. in the
Okay, so
budget.
I'm not sure that I understand what a placeholder is.
But it's not approved monies for anything in particular. It's not, there wasn't time to discuss and say, it's for salaries and benefits and equipment. It just was thrown in at the last minute because of Kenny saying, we're probably gonna be over next year.
Right,
So-
and then the questions had to be answered and they had to give us the projected
Which
budget.
they've
So
done.
now so that's where
So
I
that-
am right now. So where
we're
are
at the
we?
finish line.
that
Yeah.
deficit is what, 20 grand?
Yeah, the deficit's 22,735.
And that's not including the roof.
That is not including the roof. That would put it at another 22,000 from what we got.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm spitballing, I'm rolling ideas. If we have a placeholder, if we increase them by 25,000, and if you need a roof, we can just pay for the roof if the council so wishes to do something like that.
Or if the roof needs to be done later this year, then we can revisit the roof. If
Well,
that money's
the
in
roof,
placeholder.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you, there's spots on the roof that when it rains, we put buckets in the apparatus bay.
Yeah, well, let's get off the roof real quick.
Your
Just,
fire department, that's safe.
If $25,000 allows you to operate without having to come into the borough every other week, is that what we're getting at here?
that's the numbers we're at now. I mean, you guys see my biggest hits. My biggest hits is my insurance and my fuel. And the vehicle maintenance. My vehicle maintenance between 2022 and 2023, projected is like $42,000. And some of this, I know according to, the borough ordinance, I have to get 3 bids. Some of this stuff I can't get 3 bids on because it's specialty equipment. And when I first took over, talked with Mr. Klein-Peter, he understood that too. Like, some of this stuff I can't get 3 bids on because there's not 3 people locally in our area to get this fire truck worked on and back to us to protect the community.
Mhm.
Did you want to come up and say something?
You're doing good.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to come up and say something, that's all.
No, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just spitballing, but if 25K is what gets the fire department funded through the year, and then we can visit capital improvement projects down the road, I mean,
I'll gladly, like,
where's
if we can do
everybody
that,
at?
at
What's
least the
everybody thinking?
25,
Mhm.
the 25 to get us through the 2023 budget and get 3 different bids for roofs and everything, I'll gladly do that and bring that to the meeting. I don't mind.
It's gonna be on the agenda for the next meeting?
Mhm.
To vote.
Because Sally, that would move it from a placeholder to a budgeted item. Now that we know exactly what they need, we can move it from a placeholder to an expense.
But can you
Okay.
hold whatever's left as the placeholder in the event that the roof has to be done?
Yeah, I will.
it'll stay.
It'll stay there, it's not gonna go.
Yeah, and if the roof needs done, I'm okay with the borough, just, you hire whoever you need to hire, and we pay the contractor, and you
I'll
get a
get
new
the-
roof.
Get the estimate.
Did we get 3, or did we just have the 1?
And
All
then
right,
the-
I'll get
then the
2
money
more
never
bids.
touches their hands.
This
Well-
doesn't mean you get to disappear for the rest of the year?
No, I'll
We
be,
like
You're not
seeing your
gonna-
no, I'll be
occasionally.
here,
It's
I'll
nice.
be here.
No, they could just hand us
The
a bill.
fire department
No,
operates.
you'll just do it as a contribution,
They're
so
not a
you're not
department.
getting into bidding.
Oh, per se of the borough.
I got you.
Right.
Oh, there's always a way around it.
They should hire.
But
the
you know what I
contractor.
I know what you mean, I'm just saying, well,
So, do we have to add to
theory.
the next agenda to vote to
yeah, you can't
move
vote
the-
on it tonight, cause.
Right.
No,
It's
yeah.
Not on
Yeah,
the
no.
agenda.
I
You
just
can
wanted to
add
make
it
sure
for
there were
next-
no other questions moving forward on it. And I figured it'd be a vote next meeting, but
Yeah.
just so we
Yeah, it
had
would
it
have
all
to be on
cleared
the
up.
agenda for next meeting.
I don't know that any of us realized that we were at the end of this.
I did not.
We are
I'm
at the
Well, that's
checkered
fine.
line.
I did not know
running
that,
across it.
so I'm a little,
To clarify this, I think Sally, from Sally's position, what she was trying to explain was, this is a projection that's been provided by the fire department. It may be very accurate, but Sally's position was, let's wait and see how this plays out. And maybe it's not 25 as projected, maybe it's 15, or maybe it's 30. Okay, I think that's what she was trying to get across. But if they feel comfortable with, but if they feel comfortable with that projection for operation for this year, and you're comfortable budgeting that, yeah.
well, I mean, that's what we do with our other
And
departments.
we'd still have
Yeah, but
the other,
they filmed last year, not
what
now.
is it?
Yeah. that's
Well,
right.
it was,
Yeah, just-
If they
20.
add 25,
yeah,
you'll
whatever,
have 50 left.
so whatever
For the
the,
roof.
no,
We'll move it
45.
to next.
It was only 70,000, I thought.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we'd still have the other 50,000 if we would go over. I pray not to, but I don't know what the cost is gonna be. And like we had talked about with workers' comp and everything, and the incident with firefighter Manir, I don't know what my premiums are gonna be this year. Not quite sure.
And this wasn't an exercise to micromanage them or punish them or anything. It was really to get
Numbers.
clarity of where their numbers are. And that's what it was about.
I understand. I'm just not crazy of, let's see where you are in October and then you can come to us and request more money. That to me is micromanaging an entity that we shouldn't be doing.
any more questions for the fire department or Sally?
I will just say, I worked with Sally and some of this, Sally, we did a lot of work on
Yeah, and
trying to help them
And
get
our
their
two,
books
our two go-to was
understandable.
James and Earl. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of hours they put in, just wait till I put the log
Yeah.
hours for next year's year-end report now.
Yeah, but I know Sally did a lot of work trying to help them
No, that's,
with their books.
And the fire
She-
department truly appreciates that. This is what needs to happen, the transparency, you guys being able to know where we're at, so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Absolutely.
When I'm gone and I'm not the fire chief and somebody else is standing up here, it's already setting a precedent.
absolutely, that's what we
If
want.
somebody asks us, why are we doing, contributing this much, we have an idea now why.
And as far as grants go, we did just get awarded, and I saw it was, up on the, Facebook page, sorry. I know it was up on the Facebook page, the Office of the State Fire Commissioner did just approve us for $15,000. That bought us new ladders, new ground ladders, lighter weight, more ergonomics for the firemen to carry 2 ladders at one time instead of just one heavy one, things like that. We are finalizing the grant right now for the air packs. That's a FEMA grant of over $500,000. So we're, any grant we can get, we're going for it.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You have something still, Jeff?
Yeah, Sally suggested, and I'm confused on when the borough can sole source compared to when they can give us a donation that we can sole source a service.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're not getting involved in
Well,
your
you're already
procurement.
involved because you sole sourced a $700,000 triple combination pumper through a lease. That was not bid competitively. It was sole sourced. So if you're giving us a donation, let's say you approve a a $25,000 donation to replace a roof, and we go out and hire the contractor, can we sole source that, or must we bid that because the donation is coming from the borough?
I think you would be doing whatever council asks you to do. We would not be getting directly involved in the procurement contracting at your level.
Therefore, we could sole source it.
Not if this council says, we're willing to give you this money, but we want to make sure the money's spent well enough. They might say 100 and not 3. Yes, you're not under our statutory
Yes, we are.
requirements.
Subsection,
Oh, you might have your own, yeah.
no, it's under you guys. Under Borough Ordinance subsection 2310.1, section,
Okay, I'm talking about the procurement law.
well, that, it says.
I didn't mean in the
And
ordinance.
that's what I need clarification on. Expenditures of borough funds over $500 require a verbal pre-authorization. Expenditures of borough funds over $1,000 should be paid only upon presentation of a purchase order signed by the borough manager or designee.
That's an internal policy.
Is it anything I have to worry about?
There's a state bidding and procurement law
Okay,
that will also come into play. That's just an.
okay, so that doesn't apply,
And that has to do with an approved budget, how we operate in an approved budget. So when you're going out to purchase a capital improvement, whether a truck, a roof, a service, over a certain amount, the state has laws where bidding has to come in. And what I would say to what Jim is bringing up about a $700,000 fire vehicle, where it may be different than a roof under the state law, is it's a specialty item that you probably can sole source because of the type of item it is, as opposed to a roof.
That answers my question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so if you're actually doing statutory procurement stuff, there are all kinds, like when you mention, oh, we gotta replace, let's say, a pump on something, there's only one that makes this. That is one of the exceptions, but you gotta actually kind of
okay.
through it
So
for
I just
approve
want to
that
make
stuff.
sure, like, I wasn't supposed to call Ken at 4 o'clock in the morning because the fire truck broke and I'd be like, yo, the tow bill's over $900. I need approval. Like, I just want to make sure moving forward.
So, yeah, maybe I have to find out more, understand more about how I thought we were contributing a block of money that
We are.
went into your stuff, and then, once you have a block of money, it's a block of money, no
Okay.
matter how you convinced us.
He's
Okay.
reading
Besides
a
that.
purchasing procurement policy that's
Yeah.
internal to the borough, not to you.
Okay, thank you. I just needed clarification because I didn't want to get in trouble for, because I was going to say, I spent a lot of money the other way.
2310-1 is specifically under the fire department.
Yes, I know. We have to clean something up there in our previous council in 2015 or 14. Changed how we handle the fire department financially, and they didn't clean up our ordinances.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you make note of looking at that?
Yep, then we'll have to.
That, well, Mr. Miller, what was that ordinance number?
23-10, period 1.
Can you please look at that?
Yeah. And again, and I may have to check with Sally how like I said, I thought we were just giving a block of money.
And it is,
Unaccounted
it's a
for.
quarterly block, a quarterly check. And I just wanted to make sure because
We're gonna get it, that's gonna be the end goal. That's good, whatever we gotta rewrite, reword, that will be the end goal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we get involved in your procurement, then we do have to follow those things. So if you
Okay.
said,
as long as it
you know,
just
will
states
you guys
the block of money.
do a roof for us, and then we have to follow our statutory requirements.
We'll look at this 2310, we'll reword it how we need to do it, and the council will evaluate it, and we'll go from there.
And then we're on the schedule for next month for the vote for the rest of the budget for the 25,000.
Thank you very much
I
for,
appreciate it.
thank you very much for your involvement and your time, and I really do appreciate it. This council really.
And thank you, Jim and Sally, for all the work you did. Working together is great.
Okay, any other general public comment before we close it out? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? We will not be coming back out. We'll be discussing real estate and potential litigation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.